Hello, welcome to the next daily drawing. Today we're going to be showing you how to draw a seal. I really like these guys, they look really cool. Alright, so to start with, we're going to draw the body. The body is essentially, if you turn it this way, just a really big teardrop that's kind of fatter right here and then a little bit thinner right there. Alright, so to get started, if it helps, you can turn your paper kind of to the side to make it easier to draw a teardrop if you want to, so feel free to do that. I'm just going to kind of rough it in here. So make sure you leave space for the head, of course. So I'm just going to draw kind of like a really big parenthesis on this side, like this. And then we can just draw it connecting down into that teardroppy shape. Just really keep it kind of smooth. Don't let it get too pointy anywhere. And then I want to leave this not touching. That way I have some space to add the tail, because they do have pretty stout tails. They're not super thin like fish tails would be in some cases. So keep that spaced out a little bit. And then after we get this part, we can go ahead and turn it into the tail. If you notice, after we get the teardrop for the body, it just curves up in a smile, and then it does that wonk where it switches to being a frown like this. So we're just going to take that, do a slight smile like this. Really make sure that this right here has a dip down. Don't let that be totally flat. Make sure that this is dipping down. All right, so after I do a slight smile, I'm going to then change it to a frown like this, and that's where I'm going to have the end of my tail. All right, so on the bottom part, I'm going to do something very similar, just the opposite. So I'm going to make a slight frown at first, and then switch it to a slight smile. So it almost looks kind of like a torpedo, I guess, in a way. All right, so we'll come back and do the detail on the tail. We just want to leave this as is for now. So now we can go ahead and do the head. So if you'll look at it right here, if this right here is the body, we can see that the head is right there on the top edge of the body, and it's super round. So I'm going to draw the head at the top corner right here. I'm going to draw kind of like a little ovally shape or a little circly shape like this. And I wouldn't make it too big unless you're going for a baby seal. So it's kind of up to your discretion how big or small that you want to make that. All right, so once you get your head shape, it's easy to draw the neck. Here we can see that we have a slight smile and then a bigger smile. So I'm just going to connect the head to the body with a slight smile. And then I'm going to move down here and then connect. This is going to be a lot bigger, so your goal is to kind of connect the head down to the body. I wouldn't start right on the edge, go a little bit down to the bottom-ish of the head, and then you're going to start dropping that down like this, because you want to have a slight indent that's going to show you where we're going to have the head separate from the neck. And it's kind of up to you how high up or how low down you want to make that, but I would suggest drop it down just a little bit so that we make that a little bit more rounded. So here I have a slight indentation right here, which is pretty good to keep for that indication. All right, once I have that, if you want to erase parts of it, you can erase this right here. I would keep some of these things though, just as more or less wrinkles, and to help you figure out where to put the other parts of the body. So I can erase this down here, but I would keep part of the body right here for a wrinkle and part of the head here and here. We don't necessarily have to have the jaw right here if you don't want it. All right, the reason we're keeping this wrinkle is because if you notice that its head is turning sideways, so it's swimming forward but kind of looking in the direction of the photographer. All right, so we're going to focus on the head, and then we're going to come back for our fins. So if we look at the head a little closer, we can see that they have a very big muzzle right here. And then we have little eyes and a tiny nose. So if you'll notice, the muzzle is at the bottom base of the head. So I'm going to start right here at the bottom. I'm going to draw a really big kind of ovally shape that takes up at least half the face. It can be a little bit less if you want, or a little bit more. Just don't go taking up the entire face or anything. All right, after I get my ovally shape drawn, I'm going to go ahead and draw the nose first. If you notice, because it's slightly looking to the left, I think. Or right? Yeah, so it's slightly looking off to the left. Its nose is not in the center of that muzzle. It's off to the side to make it look like its head's turning. So I wouldn't want to draw it dead center. I'm going to move over a little bit more to the left, and then I'm just going to start drawing the nose by drawing a slight frown at first. And then what I'm going to do is, if you'll notice, it looks like the letter T that's kind of like fat and chunky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a slight parenthesis on the sides right here. So I'm going to draw a slight parenthesis. Make sure it's not too big, otherwise it might look more like a dog nose. All right, and then down here we have a slightly longer smile that's a little bit wider than those two parentheses we just drew. So I'm going to drop it down in a smile like this, so it looks kind of like a chunky T. All right, now that we've got our chunky T, if you want to, you can just fill it in, or if you're choosing to color it, you can come back and do it on that step. And mine's a little bit on the big side, but that's okay. So if you want to switch it up, definitely feel free to. All right, so here we can see, this is the outer part of the muzzle. And then we can see where this right here is where we can see the mouth. It makes that kind of W shape for the mouth. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to keep a parenthesis on this side. I'm going to curve it up in a parenthesis. And then I'm going to do a little frown right below the center of that nose. And then I want that frown to turn into a smile, and it should go all the way to the outside of that W, or all the way to the outside of the muzzle. All right, so make sure that it does stretch from one side to the other. And then we can see a little wrinkle right here where the bottom of the chin is. So my chin looks like it would be too small. So I'm actually going to add that wrinkle a little bit lower than what I have my head drawn. You might have had it just right, or you might have to move it like I did. It's kind of up to where you drew it. All right, so I often hear seals be called sea puppies. And I think that this might be part of the reasons because they have a very dog-like appearance to their muzzle, which I think looks really cute. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes. So to do the eyes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here at the edge of the muzzle. If you'll notice, right here's the edge of the muzzle, so we want to go above it just a tiny bit, and that's going to be the location of our eyes. I'm going to draw a guideline for myself that is optional, of course, just so that I can make sure that my eyes are lining up. To draw that guideline, you just go directly above the muzzle, and then you draw a slight frown like this, so he looks like he's wearing weird goggles of some sort. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that the base of the eyes touch that little frown area. So notice the eyes are very round. You can get away with just drawing a straight up circle if you want, but they do have a slight tear ducty area where it gets a little pointy here. So to draw that shape pretty easily, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a slight frown. Oh, by the way, the location of this, if you notice the eye is a diagonal away from the nose, so make sure you don't put it too close. So right there, I almost drew it too close. So really pay attention to where the eyes are in relationship to the nose. So if I go across from the nose, that's where I'm going to draw a little bit of a frown at first, like this, and then turn that frown into a smile. My dog is barking in the background, sorry. All right, once you do the little frown and smile, as always, I like to do like a little highlight and then fill in the rest. That's optional though. You can do whatever you want to in the eyes. You can add like a pupil or iris or whatever. All right, then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to go a diagonal away from the nose. Not as much though, because notice this eye is a lot closer to this nose than this one is because it's turning its head. So I'm going to go up from the nose and then go a little bit over, and that's where I'm going to draw my eye. So the eye almost touches the side of the head, but be careful not to let it completely touch the side of the head, otherwise it might look a little bit awkward. So that's kind of up to you how close that you want to get it, but I would not suggest touching the edge because it is still looking somewhat to the front. All right, so after you have finished up with your eye area, then we can go ahead and move on. I'm just going to fill this in real quick. All right, there we go. So now I'm pretty satisfied with the eyes. I'm going to keep the head very smooth. That's one thing about seals is they do have really, really fine fur, but it's so fine that we don't really see it. So I'm going to keep the head relatively smooth. I'm not worried about adding too much texture. The one thing that I would add, if you want to add more detail, add a little bit of a frown line to indicate the top of the muzzle as just like a little bit of a wrinkle, and then you can erase the rest of the muzzle if you want to, or you can leave it. So now I have my very cute rounded face. They do have whiskers and like little bitty dots for the whiskers, so if you are going for something more realistic, you can add some dots and you can add some little whiskers. All I'm doing for this is I'm just doing really, really softly drawn frowns. The reason I'm not pushing as hard is to make them look softer. If you push really hard and make them just as dark as the rest of what you've been drawing, it might stand out a little too much and it might be distracting. All right, so we are done with the face. Something that I do see right here that I would like to add, I can see a wrinkle right here where the head's meeting the body, or the neck is meeting the body. So if I see right here, it's going to be about, this is where my neck met my body. I'm going to add a little bit of a parenthesis here just to get another little wrinkle in there for its neck area. All right, so I'm going to keep all of this the same. Going down, we're going to go ahead and do these front flippers. We're going to save the back flipper for last because I think that'll be pretty fun and easy. All right, so if I look at the spacing, the back flipper is not touching this part right here. It does go back a little bit. It's not super, super far back, so be careful not to put it like in the middle of the body. You want it to be close to this, but not quite touching it. If we look at the distance between this wrinkle that we have here and the muzzle, this is almost the same distance as we have between the wrinkle and the outside of the leg. So if you want to use that as a unit of measurement, that can help you out a little bit. So I'm going to start my leg right about here. So to do this shape, all it is it's just going to be a slight smile that goes almost to a point that's a little bit round, and then we're going to do a slight frown. So starting at this point area, I'm just going to do a slight smile like this, however long you want to draw your fin. And then I'm going to switch it to becoming a slight frown, like this. So feel free to make it longer, shorter. If you accidentally made it too short, feel free to just stretch it out a little bit. Anything you need to do to get the shape or size that you want it to be. So here I just added an extra parenthesis on the end to help make it a little bit longer. And then if you want to leave it smooth and simple like that, that'll give you a cartoony aesthetic. If you want to go for realism, you can see that there's some wrinkles right here. That's showing you kind of the edge of the kind of like, I don't know, it's like shoulder area. I don't know how to describe seal anatomy. But you can add just like some little parentheses and curves to give it a little bit more of that realistic look. Now, if you also notice that they're not perfectly smooth at the tip, they're a little bit more wrinkly. So what I would suggest doing is lightly erase part of the tip of the foot and then add a wiggle line first, like this, just by wiggling your pencil back and forth, just like you would, just like kind of like sketching or scribbling. And then afterwards, we can see little lines coming up from those wiggles. So I'm just going to take the wiggle, draw little lines coming up from each wiggle, going kind of towards the center of the foot. All right, so that's all I really need to do for my texture on my fin. So I would keep the belly nice and smooth, keep the belly. And then it's really hard to see, but there is that second fin down there. And we can see that it comes out from right below that neck wrinkle. That's where we're gonna have that fin come out. And it's very much the same shape. So go down from the neck wrinkle. I'm going to just do a slight smile like this, making sure that it's not longer than this one. So measure that and go down. Make sure that you're not drawing it like uber long, because otherwise it'll look weird. And then after you get to wherever length you need, just curve it back up to the body. And this, of course, is going to be where we have the wiggly fin with more texture going up. I don't have to worry about all the wrinkles and stuff because that's behind the belly and I don't see it. So I would only see this part of the foot. All right, last step. This is going to be an easy one. All right, so keep the back smooth. Going down here, keep this smooth. All right, so if I look at my tail, I can see that there's lots and lots of kind of wrinkly textures to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw kind of like a wiggly line, kind of like what we did earlier with the fins. Now, I do notice that they have like a longer fin in the center here and here. So I am going to add a slightly larger fin right here, just by drawing kind of like wiggly parentheses. And then I'm going to continue that on. Right, after you've added a little bit of this, which if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be like super accurate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add kind of like V shapes on the inside for my wrinkles, because here the wrinkles were a little bit smaller, but over here the wrinkles are a little bigger. So to do this, I'm going to start on one wrinkle. I'm going to go down just a little bit. I don't want to go super far down. And then I'm just going to bring it back up in kind of a V shape. And they don't have to be perfect. You can have just some of them just be single lines, and you can have some be that V shape, but add a variety. And just keep in mind, you want these points to kind of aim towards like the center-ish of the tail. You don't want them to all be going the same exact direction. So here they're kind of somewhat curving to the center of the tail. So on this side, I'm going to curve them the opposite direction like this, just to give it a little bit more variety so that it feels more natural. And of course, you can make those go all the way up and touch the edges if you want to. You can move them around. It's kind of up to you. All right, so now that I have that done, I have my, oh, so cute little sea puppers. He's so adorable. All right, so from here, if you want to, you can add the textures and stuff. I really like, this is, I don't know if it is a spotted seal, but it seems like it has some spots on it and stuff. So I'm going to add a couple spots and stuff to it. You can do anything you want to on your seal, of course. If there's any lines that bothered you, by the way, you can go ahead and erase those. You don't have to keep all of the guidelines, or if you have any lines that you want to add to it. There are some wrinkles that I didn't really go over, that if you want to add even more wrinkles, you can, or you can add some textures and stuff too. I'm just adding a couple little dots here and there just to make it have a little bit more texture that makes it look a little bit more interesting. All right, so all I got left is I'm just going to do a little bit of shading. You don't have to shade. You can feel free to color it if you would like, but yeah, so there's a seal. I really like, I'm gonna butcher the name, but I think they're pronounced like skelties or selties or something. That they're kind of like mermaids, but they're seals that turn into people, or people that turn into seals. I'm not sure the order of operations on that, but I really love that story. I think it comes from Ireland. It's some sort of European country. I don't know, but I saw a book once, or I read a book once about it, and it sounded so beautiful. I just really like the story. So I really like seals. I think they're really cool. But anyway, all right, so there's a little bit of shading going on here. I would love to see some backgrounds, especially if you add to this. I love drawing animals that fly and swim, because their environments are so different from like our own. Because I mean, yeah, we can go swimming and we can go fly up in an airplane, but like it's a little bit different whenever you actually live in that environment like your whole life. I think that sea animals and like birds and stuff are so fascinating. All right, so I'm gonna call it quits there. I could add some more background stuff, but yeah, I'm just gonna stop right there. All right, so I hope you guys had fun, and I would love to see your guys' seals. All right, have a good day. Bye.